I can't imagine being at a stage where being on a yacht with like endless hookers and cocaine would get boring, but maybe it does.
Yeah, it's funny to think, really, isn't it? Just at some stage, be like, oh, I've had enough of this.
There's a fascinating pattern emerging among successful and wealthy people. Tech billionaires are buying farms, CEOs are becoming craftsmen, and corporate lawyers are opening coffee shops. Today, we're going to look into why those who climb highest often dream of the simple life. Welcome to Temporally Scripted. I'm Jack Austin with Adam Garcia as usual. And today we're looking at something called the ambition loop, which is the curious cycle where people chase success only to realize that what they wanted might have already been there at the start. So, from farmers who became Fortune 500 executives to executives who became farmers, we're examining why success often leads back to simplicity. And we're going to look at how different cultures define success and why the wealthy are increasingly seeking simpler lives, and whether we can just find that contentment without even climbing the ladder. So, we're going to share some stories, some thoughts, some musings, as we usually do. Adam, welcome to another
Hello.
episode. Here we are again.
Well, wonderful to be here as always.
Absolutely, absolutely. We just keep on going on.
I know, they're endlessly.
So this one's an interesting one, and I remember when we first talked about it, when we kind of came up with all the ideas for this, and it popped into our head of like, it wasn't because Bill Gates is buying up lots of farmland in the United States. That's for probably a different reason, but we'll go
I mean,
into
he's
that
a very enthusiastic farmer to have so much farmland.
Absolutely. He's the ultimate going back in time and going towards farmland. But I think for us, this came to play for two reasons. One, obviously, we live in Vietnam, and in Vietnam, there are a lot of people that live very rural lives, the rice farmers and the like. And whenever you see these guys, they're always super happy, big smiles on their face, pleased to see you. And it kind of brought that link into our head of, most people make their money and then they go and buy houses out in the countryside and go back to being farmers. And it's a strange triangle to go from, to having not a lot
Yeah.
to that. And it might not even be in one generation is the point of that. It could well be that someone's grandfather was a farmer. He was definitely a father. And he started making money and the kids made lots of money and then their kids decided to go back and farm. And I guess one of the best examples in recent times is someone like David Beckham.
Right. Is he a farmer now? I don't know much about him.
Yeah, so obviously he was a massive like world superstar with football, went to America and started his own football team, but now spends most of his days on his farm in the south of England, just farming, like growing vegetables, making stuff, like living outside, cooking,
Nice.
and kind of just living that family life, really.
Yeah, just not a care in the world, just living a good life. Yeah, just going back to something you said earlier. If you go to the Vietnamese countryside and you see these sort of rural communities, everyone looks happy. And then you compare their level of happiness to, I don't know, the city of London in the financial district, where it's people with like an incredible amount of wealth, but there doesn't seem to be much happiness around there.
Yeah. Yeah, and we could link that back to one of our earlier episodes where we were talking about whether or not that's necessarily related to IQ, but I think we pretty much decided that as a measurement, it's not the best, and it's sort of not a fair reflection. So yeah, what is the reason for people seeking this life? And I suppose to bring it back to a story I can tell myself, as I moved to Vietnam 10 years ago, I didn't plan to stay here, but I met my wife and she got pregnant. I don't know how that happened. It did.
By magic, just
Yeah, just, Virgin Mary style.
woke up one day, oh no, my girlfriend's faulty.
Yeah,
Keeps
I don't
throwing
know
up in the morning.
I don't know what's happened here. And obviously at the time I'd not planned to be in Asia for a very long time, so my savings were limited. I'd come from a corporate job which clearly paid me peanuts for a lot of responsibility. And yeah, so I started to work as a teacher. out here, and the pay wasn't amazing at the time. And then after a few years, I started having this success in business and making quite a lot of money, like more money than I'd ever made, even in a corporate job. But what I realized as soon as I started making that money is all of the problems that I had, drinking too much, smoking, not having a routine, not doing any exercise, and the reasons behind those emotionally, they didn't go away as soon as I didn't have to worry about money.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So
And I would imagine there's quite a bit more stress that comes along as well, and it's more of like an emotional kind of roller coaster. And so you'll have the stressful points where there's loads to get done and things aren't quite going right. And then you have the successful times, then that's time to like party and celebrate. In the dips, maybe it's like sort of coping with stress or frustration because something isn't working out. And so maybe that would go, okay, well, I'll just have a few beers or be like a typical stressed businessman kind of
yeah,
every available opportunity.
yeah. Well, I think it's like a common excuse among people, and is that it like when you don't have enough all of the time and you have to worry about paycheck to paycheck, which most people in Western countries do. Living out here, we don't necessarily have that problem. But living back at home, you worry about paycheck to paycheck, and you kind of assume that the reason you don't have a good routine, or the reason you smoke, or the reason you drink is because you don't have enough money. And that if you had lots of money, you wouldn't be as stressed, and therefore all of these problems that you have would melt away, right?
Yeah.
And that's the point I'm getting at, is I noticed very quickly that then the benefit is that you have the time to start working on that shit, but that shit is not there because of money. And I wonder if that is a hole that can never be filled. So the more you earn, and then you know buy a house, and then you get a nice car, and then you can go on holidays, and then you get a yacht, and then you can go to every nightclub and eat every meal you want and whatever. And every time you're doing all of this shit, you're like, I still don't feel any better. Nothing's changed. I don't feel like I'm a better version of myself at all.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I guess as well, it's maybe perhaps because we're living in this sort of world of maybe hyper novelty where everything's really new and we're operating in an environment that we're just not evolved and we shouldn't naturally be operating in. And maybe there's something in that, that it's so artificial how most of us are living that it's causing some underlying stress and problems compared to the person who's on a farm, just growing crops, looking after animals, being one with nature. Maybe there will be some amount of stress and hard times, but I think it's very, very different and it's more natural. And yeah, you're a bit more at one with nature and the planet and kind of natural systems and how it all works. Whereas to be in an office just making money for some company shilling some terrible product around the world, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
probably a bit different.
yeah. And I guess mentioning that kind of brings some of the science around this phenomena out, because if you spend time in any kind of nature, it does change your biochemistry. Basically it changes the hormones that are released, and there's a power from going and being around trees or around grass or around water, that even if you're in a city and you go into one of the green spaces for like 10 or 15 minutes, it has this like regeneration effect on you as a human. So it does actually help with that. And there is some science behind that as well. So I guess that could be part of it too.
Yeah, completely. And being around nature, well, it's just seeing things as this in the natural sort of form rather than some like being in this place surrounded by brutalist architecture, which is all square boxes and glass and just shit. I don't know. Seeing like
Yeah.
nature, you see like the natural patterns and things, and most things grow in this way that's related to like Fibonacci and golden ratio and things like that. Maybe there's something about that that we're meant to see every day and we're meant to experience.
Yeah. And it's almost reconnecting us to that, because clearly as living organisms, we will have that Fibonacci sequences in the things that are inside us and make us.
Yeah, and nature doesn't usually do everything in square boxes or rectangles.
Yeah, yeah, this is it. It's not normally the way that things are done. And it is interesting that, and this brings a few ideas into my head, but we won't jump through them all straight away. But it is interesting that the way that humans build things and the easiest way for us to build things is so different to what we see in nature and what happens
Yeah,
naturally.
I think that's definitely now. That seems to be the case where the architect's brief is to make a building that'll house so many people, make it as cheap as possible. And it's just kind of like, okay, well, here's a sort of rectangular box and we'll put some floors and windows in it and that's it. If you go to various places in Europe and look at like Gothic cathedrals and things like that, where it's using sacred geometry and incredible architectural techniques and things that would take over 100 years to build. So whoever designed it and started working on it wouldn't be alive to see the finish. But it was this huge endeavor that we just don't seem to have that in modernity.
No, no, Barcelona, I think, is a good example of that because the
Yeah,
cathedral there
probably the only
still
one.
still isn't complete, right?
Yeah.
It's still being built. And I could joke and say that's Spanish builders and whatnot, but
And
we
I
won't.
wouldn't be offended because I'm half Spanish and I'd go, you're probably right. I've
It's too
spent a lot of
many
time there.
too many siestas going on for my liking. They need to get like a North Korean project manager in for like a short. Wait, actually, none of their buildings are finished either, are they? So that would be.
I guess that's maybe for different reasons.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. I did hear recently that, and this is totally off topic actually, so maybe we will leave it. But I heard that they'd done a ban in North Korea on pet dogs, and the government like came
Right.
and reclaimed everyone's pet dog, which I wonder if that was linked to a lack of protein in their supply
Yeah,
chains at the
it
time.
could be. I mean, I heard a story from someone who'd escaped from North Korea. They were saying that where you have toilets, it's kind of like a box underneath, and so it basically collects all the shit, and that gets used on the crops to like fertilize the crops. But if, as a family, you don't make enough shit to put on the crops, then you get less food the following year.
I mean that seems quite fair.
Yeah, but it's like, wow, it's
Yeah,
just so insane.
I mean, they should spend like just go and send them on like a week's holiday to eat street food in like Bangkok, and then they can go back and those tanks will be full. Just think of the efficiency.
Overflowing.
It would be wild. Yeah, totally crazy. But anyway, so back to topic. I think maybe the best place, we've kind of done a general overview, but the best place to start this exploration is in the first step because we talked about going from farmer to millionaire and back to farmer. If you're somebody now, let's take the example of a Vietnamese rice farmer, and you're there and you've probably got an iPhone as well, even though you're spending most of your days in the rice fields, as everyone does. And you'll see TikTok and you'll see how the rich people live. What do you think it is that drives farmers to want to leave the countryside and live in the city? And even at that very base level of moving from your farm in the countryside to like a tiny little box apartment in a city to start the path of moving towards a more prosperous future.
Hmm. I don't know. It's that thing. A lot of people always want what they don't have, and but also certain ways of life always seem to be in some ways glorified, whether that's in social media, TV, movies, whatever. And it's like it's kind of it's changing people's idea of what success is. So it's like success isn't just having this thing where you're happy with what you have and you have your family around you and you do something productive and that is meaningful in some ways. Success instead has to be this thing that's more about the money, the lifestyle, the appearance. Um, I don't know, but it seems like that's the kind of attraction that drives people into cities, possibly as well that idea of just making a better life for your family and say, okay, well, I can, instead of working in the countryside here on a little farm, I can go I can go Hanoi, something like that, make lots of money, send it back home, or give my kids a better education and things like that. I think there'll be a number of factors that all work together, and it'll be different for each individual person.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the psychology of FOMO. I would guess it's like there's a fear of missing out on this education of this promised land of being somewhere where life is easier and better than it is in the countryside. Because no one's denying that farming life, not for David Beckham, I'm sure, but that farming life of being at the level of a farmer in most countries is hard work.
Yeah.
Even in the UK, I mean, obviously, again, it's a different type of hard work. It's relative, and you're probably in a Lamborghini tractor or a Range Rover or
You might
or
be,
a big
yeah,
old
but
farmhouse, but it's still hard work. You're still awake at 4 a.m. every day. There's no weekends to speak of. Like if you have animals to take care of, even in the UK, you're taking care of those animals every day of the year. There's no, I'm off on a 3-week holiday vibe. It's just not how it
yeah.
is.
And your farm in the UK might be worth $1 million or 2 million on the property market, but what you're actually getting paid in a year, that might be like 30 grand.
Max, and a lot of it is as a result of subsidies that you're reliant upon whatever government decides that they're going to do with those specific subsidies. Like in the UK now, if you're a farmer and I think it's something like 5 million or 1 million, which sounds loads, you have to pay like 20% tax when whatever parent owns it dies. So
Yeah,
for most people, because they are very asset rich but cash poor, that means breaking the farm up, selling parts off to be able to continue.
yeah. Who
So
do you
there is
sell it to? Monsanto
yeah,
or
right,
some dodgy
exactly.
housing development thing? I don't know.
Yeah, probably a housing development that you suggested you do on your own land, and the council said no until it was in the hands of whichever property developer is preferable for them.
Obviously, not insinuating that there is any corruption whatsoever in such a developed place as the United Kingdom, but
Absolutely not. I mean, that would be
sometimes there's
preposterous.
coincidences.
Yeah, it's just the coincidence of that kind of stuff. Yeah, for sure. So, I feel like that whole thing is because it is a very hard life and people think there is something better on the other side.
Yeah, more than likely. But it's also, I guess I've brought up Alan Watts before, but there's this really good thing you can watch where it's a really short Alan Watts talk, and it's animated by the guys who did South Park. And it's like, and you have this thing, and it's like this bag, and it's like there's something in the bag, and you're just going to chase it. So you go through school, then you go through secondary school, you go through college, and it's coming the whole way along. It's going here, and so you chase it, you do a terrible job, you get a divorce, you get that, and finally you retire, and you get the bag, you empty it, and there's nothing inside.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's like there's this thing pulling you and this promise of something, and it's there. Oh, just a bit further. Just go to work. Once you get this promotion, you'll be happy. You'll have everything, and then you get the promotion. It's still not there. So it's no, just a bit further, and then you get to the end, and it's like I was chasing nothing,
yeah, and
just an
I think
empty dream.
yeah, I think it also takes advantage of human curiosity as well, because you're always curious to see something new, and obviously we're rewarded by certain things when we see novelty. It's like the novelty. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a part of your brain that reacts to novelty and things like that, right? But I don't
Yeah.
know if you've ever been, well, I'm sure you have, but you're in a position where you're doing one job and then you get another job or another business or whatever, and your salary goes up. And for that first month, you're like, oh, this is awesome. And then it's just like the shine goes straight away. It's like, okay, now this is normal.
Which I think everything in life is a little bit like that. So it's like when you're working on a project, it could be like a short project that's like a video you're making and it takes a week to do, or it could be a long project involving a business that takes a year or something. It's like as you're going, you get more excited, and then all of a sudden it's finished, it's done. You go, yeah, wicked. Oh, okay. Well, you think the world's going to change just when you get to this point, but it doesn't. And you get there. And I think there's some term for it. I can't remember what it is, but it's like you achieve your goal. And then it's just like you feel deflated afterwards. because it's almost like the dopamine that you were getting from the progress that you were making along the way isn't there anymore. And so generally people then find another goal to work on, something else to do, because it's like we're always, and dopamine is kind of like that, I think, as well. It's like it's all about the pursuit, not the having.
Do you think that's the reason why you always feel like shame after you bust a nut or something when you're you're pursuing it, you're going after it, and then as soon as you're there, it's like
I think what we need to do is get some kind of neuroscientist on the show to interview and just ask him that one question, and then we can leave after answering.
Yeah, but again, it's like in a microcosm, or depending how micro, I'm giving away too much information here. In a mini pursuit, but it's weird. I think it's kind of it's a reflection on human nature. I think the first time I ever really experienced this feeling in life is Christmas as a kid, right? So you're waiting all December comes and holidays are coming, holiday. You're like, oh, it's building up, and then you go and see Santa, and like it gets to that week before Christmas, and you're
more
off
and
school,
more boxes on the advent calendar are opened,
getting bigger and bigger, and there's this whole excitement. And then it's Christmas Eve, you're putting stuff out for Father Christmas, and then like you go to bed, you wake up, it's like he's been. You see his stocking full, you run downstairs, like you open all your presents, it's really cool, and then it's like that's it for this year then. And it's really quick. And you suddenly sat there like 3 o'clock after too much food and watching Christmas films with your family, and you're like, oh, well, that's it. For another year.
And it's like going to be this amazing thing. And then you get there and it's like, right, it's kind of not. Yeah, and it's a bit like, and as well, which I guess is partly tied to that, I can't remember which day it is, but there's one day in January, which is like the most depressing day of the year. So it's like you've had the build up to Christmas and New Year, it's gone. You've got in that lull. Everyone's broke at the same time and it's freezing cold outside.
Yeah. It's probably linked with the same day, although they have to calculate this every year, but the same day that everybody gives up on their New Year's resolutions as well. There's like a certain day in January that they calculate each year based on I don't know what, but some of these statisticians do crazy stuff, and every year there is a certain day that it's like, right, by this day 90% of everybody will have given up on the things they said they were going to do in this year. It's crazy. So again, I think it's that same kind of thing. You see the novelty, it's like, right, I'm going to do this, it's going to be great, and then after 2 weeks you're like, like I think that is part of it as well. And I wonder, is it rooted in how we define what success should feel like and what it is? It's like, really, we define success as a destination, don't we? It's like, once you do this, you get this. We don't define it as the journey, the path, the moving towards that. But in actual fact, that is where the juice is.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, at the same time, some people define success just in terms of money. So how much do you have in the bank? Is it 1 million, 10 million, 100 million? And if you just define success on money, then you'll do terrible things to be successful if it's all just about the money.
OnlyFans, or
maybe something even worse.
Yeah, subscribe, guys, or you're going to see me and Adam on OnlyFans.
Yeah, I'm already there, not doing so much.
But yeah, I think the whole what is success and what does that mean to people is different,
Yeah, and it's different cultures as well. Wasn't it for Romans? I've got it written down somewhere. They defined it more in terms of reputation and influence. So having a good reputation, being known for being wise or being a good person, and having influence over others in a positive way was more important than the amount of money or power, which is quite a nice way to look at it.
Yeah, what you bring to the world. So when you said that about money and influence, I was thinking not in a Caesarian sort of way, not in a Nero fashion where you like burn the city to the ground around you and stuff, and more in a philosopher's sort of way.
Yeah, probably Marcus Aurelius kind of way, I would think.
That which the man is an absolute legend. Yeah, not in like a vomitorium sort of way.
Maybe we should leave for Roman Empire for now and think of some other.
I do like a good Roman Empire story, to be fair, and it's interesting to see that today people believe that we are at this level of civilization when, in actual fact, there are a lot of previous civilizations that kind of got further in many ways than we have so far. I
Yeah.
do wonder if
And
even then people considered going back to farms, but presumably most of the farms were being run by slaves.
yeah, probably. I think in Roman times there was ways as well though where you could be a slave and then you could get out of slavery
Was it
by
called gladiators?
no, no, it wasn't. I'm not basing my historical knowledge on a Russell Crowe movie.
I am. So how would they get out of it? Like, what was the?
I think it was by kind of proving yourself worthy or being someone with like integrity or something like that and sort of like making connections and things like that. And eventually you could get out of slavery and get into like different kind of positions where it was more like work, and then you could kind of rise through social ranks. I
Right,
think.
right. This
So I've heard.
this is like when you go to like a slave meet and you're like, "Hey mate, how's your boss? Can you introduce me to your boss? I heard he's quite good at liberating slaves, bring them through the
Sort of
level." I was thinking,
unionizing.
I was thinking about jumping over from my tribe to your tribe if there's any space for another slave. We've just hit a new all-time low. I'm not sure if we're episode 8 or 9, but we are now joking about slavery.
Well, I mean, that's kind of in a way what Tarantino did with Django Unchained, really, isn't it? It's sort of like he'd already made some like kind of fun and entertainment out of World War II. Well, might as well do a bit of slavery as well. So
Yeah,
it's popular culture. It's all right. Say what you want.
I suppose as well, and it's historical slavery, so those people don't have feelings anymore because they're all dead. So that's fine. We're not going to hurt anybody's feelings, or maybe,
Absolutely no problems.
yeah, we might hurt someone's feelings that is like 18 generations away from there and feels offended that we talked about their great 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 Roman granddad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how good these genetic research companies are now that can trace your ancestry, but if you can find it back that way.
Yeah, if I'm 1% Roman slave and you've offended me, I'm going to get you cancelled. But I wonder, even back then, no, that if you were not a slave, this is in dangerous territory. Even back then, if you were working in a simple life and you're like striving for this freedom, and then you get the freedom, are you then like, oh, well, this is I used to get fed, and that don't get fed anymore. To get my own food. This is
Yeah,
fucking.
maybe.
I've got nowhere to sleep. This is fucking terrible. Take me back.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it would work, whether like we always have that regardless of the situation, or whether when times are much harder and things get better, you're much more grateful to be in that situation. I don't know. As we go back in time, life was incredibly difficult for the vast majority of people. It's like we think it's difficult now, but without the level of technology, without the level of like know-how, even just like medications and things like that, and the amount of like just death there was, how many people wouldn't even make it past childbirth kind of thing, or like past
Right.
childhood.
Yeah, I mean, how many people died of an ingrown toenail and stuff like that in the
Yeah,
past?
completely.
You're talking big numbers, really. So, yeah, I wonder if there's like a whole, part of the reason that once you get to that stage where you've done everything and you've had enough money to do all of these things and you're super wealthy, that you're like, I'm bored. I just want to try a more simple life to see what it's like. And part of it, I guess, I could relate to now: not drinking, not smoking weed, not doing any drugs. And
Not
part of
smiling.
it, yeah, not smiling, not being happy, being miserable as sin. Yeah, but I wonder if part of that for me is just because it's curiosity. It's like, I've never done this before, so I'm going to do that because everything else is now dull and boring in comparison.
Yeah, it seems like something new and kind of interesting.
Yeah, like I can't, I can't imagine being at a stage where being on a yacht with like endless hookers and cocaine would get boring, but maybe it does.
Yeah, it's funny to think, really, isn't it? Just at some stage, be like, oh, I've had enough of this.
Yeah, what I really fancy is living on a farm. But I suppose it's an important distinction as well, is like what these people are saying is they're not They're not saying, hey, I want to go live on a farm with limited electricity and I'm going to cut the internet off and we're not going to
Hmm.
have any refrigeration because that's cheating. And we're not going to have any like machinery to keep the farm going or anything. We're going to do it all by hand. We're going
Hmm.
back fully feudal. I'm going feudal. Forget all this. I'm going to have $1 billion in the bank, but I'm not going to use any technology at all.
No tractors, just use like an ox or a horse or
Yeah,
something like that, drag
no
something behind.
internet, no
Do you think they still
modern.
have lots of hookers and cocaine, or do you think they're gone as well?
Maybe, maybe at times, that there is the occasion where this is called for. So I suppose there's that argument as well. It's like, are you just choosing to live somewhere beautiful and live that way, but still having all of this stuff anyway? Because there's a very different life to David Beckham on his farm or Jeremy Clarkson on his farm to
Yeah,
the
completely.
rice farmer in Vietnam, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, it's completely different. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I don't really watch TV, so I haven't seen any of that Clarkson's Farm kind of thing, but I've heard a bit about it. And it's like, yeah, it's just, oh, well, I'm a farmer now, and it's hard being a farmer. And it's like, yeah, you're also like multi millionaire. You don't really have to worry about it too much. Just, I don't know. It's a weird sort of, oh, well, I'm this now, just a simple farmer. It's like, yeah, but one that doesn't have to worry about a single thing ever again for the rest of his life.
Yeah, it's not really the same, is it? And I wonder if what we're really saying here is it's that link to being in the countryside, seeing beautiful green nature things on a daily basis, while also having an absolute shit ton of cash in the bank is the ideal state. So like the worst state is just being a farmer with not a lot apart from the land to work on, relying on crops and the cycle of the year to live is like this level. And then level
Mhm.
two, which is also shit, but shit in a different way, is like living in a city, working in a job or having a business or something that requires you to be doing that all day, every day until you build up enough. And then once you get to super rich in a city, the absolute peak level is being in some beautiful countryside place most of the time and not having to deal with any of that shit that you made your money from. So it's like you're
Yeah.
diving into this trap, this hell, to get out again into a better situation.
Yeah, completely. Um, and I can see why. And I've often thought myself, if something happens and I make like a lot of money, then that's what I would do. I would buy some land, build a nice little house on it, live almost sort of self sufficiently, do a little bit of work here and there, or fall back on whatever savings are there, and just relax. Because I've always found it nice in places I've lived before where there's been a garden, just to have that kind of thing constantly growing where and you're constantly working on things. So it's like, all right, this plant's not doing so good. Maybe it's like got this kind of deficiency, or I need to do this, or then you're building something else with different plants to grow in. And there's always like lots of different problems to overcome. And so that's really good for your mind. And then by the end of the season of each crop, you've got something to show for it. And it's like really delicious food that's like kind of the best that you can get. And there's just something really nice and fulfilling about doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I do question whether the super wealthy actually care about money as much as we do and the people that aren't super wealthy.
Yeah, probably they don't.
Because, for example, I remember when I used to work at Boots in their head office in Nottingham. And obviously, it's a huge company with a few thousand stores, a big pharmacy platform behind it. And they're also multinational. So they're across many, many countries. And the guy who's the owner or one of the main owners at the time is a guy called Stefano Pacina. And he made all of his money from New York hedge funds and buying things and borrowing money against them before he bought them to buy them sort of vibe, and all of these kind of really transparent businesses that do great things for the world. But anyway, regardless of what you believe about this guy, he was in his 80s even when I worked there 10 years ago, and every day he would still be above the main boot store in London in the office in the boardroom from 7 in the morning until 7 at night working on the business, right? And that was what he did all day, every day. Now it's not because he needed the money.
Some people, I guess it's just for kind of work that they love, or they love the process and things like that. And I've worked in like I remember working in a place, and it was like the CEO of this place. It did like sort of LED and various things and import export. Um, but he was like well into his 70s, and as I was thinking, like, what's he doing here? You know, it's like he's got loads of money. He's got like got a really nice house. I'd just be going on holiday and doing nice things if I was him at that age. But no, it's like there every day, like without fail, putting in the hours, and it was clearly just something about it that he loved or couldn't be without, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's part of this thing as well. It's like the people that tend to go, okay, I'm going to go and live in the countryside and be a farmer again. Is that because they never found the thing that made their heart sing every day? They never really came across what it is in life that they are supposed to do. So they went through all this track. They were hyper successful. They made tons of money, but there was always this thing missing that's like eating away at them and making them feel like they're not fulfilled and they're not doing in life what they're supposed to be doing. And therefore, such a drastic change to just being in nature and doing that gives
Mm.
them that fulfillment.
Maybe it does, or maybe even that doesn't give them fulfillment. I wonder if there's something because of like evolution that makes us always be striving for something, or there's always something that feels like it needs to be done, and there's never actually a point when you feel completely fulfilled and like everything's done. Perhaps that point is never reached, because having that thing, that motivation to always keep striving is what keeps evolution going and is what keeps things alive. They're not just giving up.
So it's almost like there's a disconnect between what modern society and humanity have stated as success to
Yeah.
what nature wants. And I guess if we dug that down, for us before modern society or civilization, success would just be surviving another day with enough food in your belly and not getting kind of your face ripped off by a saber-toothed tiger,
Yeah,
or like
basically.
dysentery drinking water or something, right? So therefore every day would be a strive because surviving 24 hours is all you can possibly achieve.
Mhm.
And that would be a much more natural state of things for humans, because then you're fulfilled because every day is another challenge to get through.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe as well from the idea of like the sort of selfish gene, it would be that the drive is there and the motivation is there to like keep going and keep chasing this fulfillment thing to the point where your genes are passed on by having offspring, and then you raise them. And then in the past, we didn't really live that long. So after then, probably it didn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, right. And I
Whereas
mean,
now we live a lot longer, but we still have those like desires to do things, or there's still the dopamine thing running through us.
yeah, and there's two levels to that in there. Like, I don't actually know if you go back to sort of cave times before civilization, how long a human actually lived for. I'm not sure. But I know once there was like the Industrial Revolution and even civilization way before that, back in Roman times, Greek times, whatever, the last 10,000 years, people still lived into their 80s. It was just not as often. And usually, a lot of that number was dragged down massively by childbirth, like you said earlier, right? So people are born and then they die, and they usually take the mother out with them, generally speaking, and the mother's
Yeah,
like 12 or something, because it's like, it's a few
Snenton.
Snenton, or yeah, or like some southern some Southern American state. Yeah, but so again, it's like, is that was part of that back then. But I wonder if there is this disconnect between ambition and what success means and what actually is fulfilling. And my question is this, though: can you skip that? Because to me, just going and living a simple life right now, I don't feel like that's possible for me, or even something that I want.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. I could quite happily just live a really simple life, but obviously, yeah, not
How
on
would
my
you
own.
define that? I want to,
I'd
yeah,
have to have
and
like family or something. But yeah, I'd
I
be
want to
quite happy
challenge
to
that,
sort
though,
of.
just to interrupt you. Sorry, you say you're
Mhm.
quite happy, but I want to challenge you on that. So, this simple life, what do you define as simple then? So do you have a house?
Yeah.
Okay, and what kind of house is it? Like,
Massive house with a swimming pool.
but joking aside, right? The simple life,
um,
like what does it look like in your head, this house?
it doesn't have to be massive, just like nice enough.
Yeah. A
Has
few
like
bedrooms,
running water, electricity.
internet, yeah, TV,
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Cold plunge, gym.
Yeah, fridge, freezer, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
washing machine.
So in this ideal world and simple life, right? You've got a family, you're living in this house. How have you paid for this house?
I just made some money on the internet.
But you see what I mean? I agree with you. Like, I do want a simple life, but I also, in that simple life, there will be a house with 5 bedrooms and a gym and a swimming pool. And granted, that will be a little bit cheaper because of Vietnam, but not really because of the land costs and stuff here. So in order to sustain that, I'm going to need to make a few $1 million. And that to me is non-negotiable and is going to happen.
Yeah, so I guess what I meant is I'd be quite happy to go and live a simple life. I would need to make some money before this happens.
Yeah, and I think we've just there, because I feel exactly the same. I think that is the exact paradox or the exact situation that we're discussing here. It's a need to escape the rat race.
Yeah.
And that even these people, such as David Beckham or otherwise, even though they have hundreds of millions of dollars, they're trapped because they need the life that they've got and the exposure at that level. And like for me, it's the clients or the business movements, right? I need all of that to get to the point where I can be like, right, I'm fucking off.
Yeah, and then just have something where you have like a diverse investment portfolio, and it's just the money looks after itself, and you can keep making money as you go on quite easily, hopefully without having to do much. But you just need that capital first.
Yeah, and then obviously just enough so that your kids can be cool, and then their kids can squander it all and start again as farmers. I mean, that's
The
usually the way.
kids will be too busy working the land anyway.
And then you can do one of those things that rich people often say. It was like buzzwordy, where they say they're not going to leave any money to their children because, or they go, oh, well, I think Bill Gates, he says, oh, I'm not going to leave any money to my kids. I'll just leave them like $1 million each or $10 million each or whatever.
Which still isn't bad.
Yeah, and by that time, you've obviously already built your connections with, all the people that are also going to Stanford or Harvard with you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would think as well if you turn up for a job interview, what's your name? John Gates. Oh, it's an interesting name. Yeah, my dad's Bill. Oh, how interesting. Go. Yeah, I think you just get hired on that basis.
Can I buy your farm?
Well, it's like the sort of Hunter Biden thing, isn't it? When he was apparently some expert in oil and natural gas, so he gets some job for that Ukrainian company.
Yeah, yeah, and then it's easy. And I mean, I can even go back to how much my mind has changed just to bring another personal story. So, as those of you may or may not know, in my 20s, I considered myself almost on the verge of being what's known as a hippie. And I had that idea when I was younger of, oh yeah, I could go and live in like a big commune that's like communal living, and all of these other people and families are there, and you'll have your family and they have theirs, and you all share and live this big idyllic life and stuff, talking about alternative ways of living. And now I think that would be the worst possible thing ever of all time. It would be like being stuck in a hostel in Southeast Asia, paying $4 a night next to Tarquin from fucking,
On this gap year.
on his gap year, right over here, and then some other smelly like dread over this direction, and you're just stuck in there. And it's not a life that I want to live. So what do you think? Is there an alternative way of going through life so that you don't have to go through this whole out of simplicity to success and back out again?
I really don't know.
Have you ever been tempted to go and join a commune?
Not really, because it always seems like it ends up being some kind of cult in one way or another. Because you're always going to have like the leader, and there's always going to be some weird hierarchy, and it'll end up in some sort of like animal farm kind of thing where we're all equal, but some are more equal than others.
Lord of the Flies, more like.
Maybe, yeah. With hacky sacks and weed. I don't know. I mean, some of it, it's like, yeah, you think, oh, at age 20, that's all right. And yeah, mid-20s, you think, yeah, I could live on a commune. I'm sure it'd be good fun. But then, no, because it'd just be some kind of chaos and it'd be weird politics. And yeah, no, I don't think it's something I want to do right now.
Yeah, who's a non-vegetarian's been using the composting toilet? I can smell the hormones. Yeah, I don't know. Back then, it did seem like it was possible as an idea at some point. But yeah, I do think
there's no like first aid kit or anything like that. There's just crystals to heal with, or some white sage or something.
Yeah, someone comes over and blesses you and hopes for the best. I've got a toothache, mate. Like, I need to go to the dentist. Yeah, no, totally. So just to kind of wrap us up, like one more topic before we bring the episode to a close on this one about, ambition and people going back to simpler lives in the future, after they've made their money. What do you think will progress with all of this in the future and technology, and do you think that the desire to return to a simpler life will increase or decrease? How do you see the future panning out?
I don't know. I think there might be you'll get people on each extreme. You'll get people on one extreme that embrace technology to the full. They'll be fully kitted out with Neuralink and whatever else comes up, that they can just immerse themselves in some virtual world and spend what could seem like years in the space of 5 minutes in this world. You'll get other people, they'll just be, I'm free with technology. Just give me some grass and a tent
Weed
and a
or
composting toilet.
So in essence, you think that it's going to become like a pre-Mad Max future?
Kind of, yeah.
In essence, it's like a few hundred years before we end up in a Mad Max situation.
Yeah. But at the same time, as technology is progressing, what people could almost plug into, I think eventually we'll just be able to go off into sort of virtual worlds where, yeah, you can go be a farmer for a couple of years. But in real time, that will only have taken like 10 minutes or something. And maybe people do it that way as ways to relax. And I think everyone loses their minds in a few years anyway, as technology gets too much. But then we do enter Mad Max phase. But that's just me. It could end up quite happily.
Well, me personally, if I can spray silver spray paint on my teeth, I'm ready to go there right now.
I've been training for this my whole life.
Next Halloween, there'll be my first bold Halloween. I'm like spoilt for choice for bolding things that I can go as. Also, have you ever seen the Goonies?
I don't think I have.
See, they got that thing in there. It's like, I could be that with a bald head. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go and check it out afterwards. If you've never seen the Goonies, it's got to be watched. Anyway, so wrapping it up today, so whether you're climbing that corporate ladder as we speak, trying to build a business, or maybe already dreaming of your own vegetable garden, the whole ambition loop shows us something quite fundamental about human nature. The success isn't always where we think it is, and sometimes that long journey to the top is just a roundabout way of learning to appreciate where we started. Next week, we're going to be talking and getting physical with the fitness journey. We're going to share our personal transformation stories, break down what actually works, and give you the real talk about supplements, motivation, and those awkward first gym visits. And we may even see some lycra from Adam. So something for you guys to...
Without a doubt.
Like and subscribe and get stuck into. And don't forget to let us know, what's your definition of success and has that changed over time? Share your thoughts and experiences with us on X at Temporally Scripted, or the website, where you will find our show notes and more stories of people who found fulfillment in unexpected places. Don't forget to like, subscribe. We'll be back next week as always. And thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time.
See you next time.